You were all set?
Good.
Okay, now we're good.
Okay, great. All right, good morning. I'm bringing the Coastal Permit Administrator hearing to order of March 26, 2026. It is 10:03 a.m. Clerk, do we have a determination of legal notice?
All items on the agenda have been properly noticed.
Thank you. Moving into our regular calendar, we have case 3A, which is CBP 2022-0017 for the applicants Vicki Sanderson and Steve Regan, and Rob Fitzsimmons is our project planner. Please go ahead.
Thank you. So this is a standard coastal development permit for after-the-fact major vegetation removal of 7 trees and the replacement of an existing fence about 1 mile northwest of Guala Town Center on the southwest side of Old Coast Highway, a third of a mile southeast of the intersection of Old Coast Highway's intersection with State Route 1 at 38,000 Old Coast Highway, Guala, APN 145-12107. This is a bluff top parcel. The trees were removed pretty close to the bluff edge, and the fence runs along the entire length of the entire boundary of the parcel. The recent history of the site and its application and its ownership is a bit complex. I can summarize it if it'll be helpful, but it is all in the staff report.
I've read it in the staff report.
Okay.
Thank you.
The new fence is 6 feet high and view obscuring, at least along the front of the parcel, making the fence one moment. The new fence is 6 feet high and view obscuring along the front of the parcel, and so the portion within the front yard setback, which is the northeasternmost 20 feet of the parcel, can't be permitted as is. Potential remedies include making the fence non-view obscuring above the 3.5 foot height, or just moving it out of the front yard entirely, just pushing it back. Staff recommend condition 10 requiring remediation within 90 days of issuance of the permit, but leaving the method up to the applicant. Staff understands the applicant intends to cut the alternating planks on the encroaching portion down to 3.5 feet, leaving the portion above that height at 50% coverage, and thus non-view obscuring. Staff feel this will satisfy the condition and resolve the issue. Recommended conditions 8 and 9 relate to the 7 removed trees and require revision from what's printed in the staff report. Late in the review process, staff received comment from CDFW, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, with recommendations. These have been incorporated in the revised language in the memo dated March 24th, 2026. The Coastal Commission also commented, pointing out the issue and stating that they support CDFW's comments. Staff recommend the existing stumps remain in situ to support the bluff stability, but any new non-native saplings be removed. Staff also recommends replacement of the removed trees at a 1-to-1 ratio using native species, including both bishop pine and scran fir. Staff recommend requiring that the applicant submit a planting plan for review, which shall include both new native trees and native shrubs, with a 5-year annual reporting plan and performance standard of either 100% tree survival in 5 years or 75% if the understory shrubs are incorporated. This comes from CDFW's recommendations. Given the potential bluff stability risk, the initial removal created, staff also recommend condition 11, requiring a deed restriction memorializing the limits of available bluff protection options. The remaining conditions are standard. Staff recommend approval of this project with the revised conditions of approval. One other correction that was not included in the memo. The project location should have started within the coastal zone. This is a coastal development permit. It is, of course, in the coastal zone. But I just wanted to clarify that point.
Thank you.
Aside from that revision, staff recommends approval of the project, and I'm available for questions.
Okay, great. Thank you. Come on in. Whoop, just one moment. Looks like we have folks joining us. Come on in.
Thank you.
Please feel free to take a seat.
I don't know if I'm in the right meeting. I'm with,
For Coastal Permit Administrator?
no, different meeting.
Different meeting, okay. Okay, now I'm gonna look to see if we have a representative of the application that wishes to speak for this item. Property owner, applicant, or agent, and you can indicate so by using the raise hand.
Looks like Steve said he is here, so I will allow him.
Okay, perfect. Steve, we've brought you over. Please go ahead and unmute, state your name for the record, and any comments you may have.
Hi, Steve Regan. I'm owner of the property with Vicki Sanderson.
Okay, Steve, yeah, we're having a little bit of a hard time hearing you with your microphone.
Okay, hold on one sec. Can you hear me now? Let me take you off my AirPods. See if that'll work.
It looks like we're back.
Okay, let's see.
Is that better?
Much better. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, the AirPods don't work as well as they did.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, could you just repeat your name and any comments?
Yeah.
you make?
Steve Regan. I'm one of the owners with Vicki Sanderson.
Mhm.
So basically just some history. The property was purchased by us. About 3 months later, we found out that there was a lien against the property for the violations that were done by the previous owner that title did not pick up. So we've given that over to the title company. As far as the remediation of the fence, Rob and I have been working on that, and we have no problem with that. I do have a problem with the report that came out on 2 days ago on the replacement of the trees. Well, first of all, I think that it's punitive to us as the new owners, because if trees are replaced or taken down by a regular permit or an emergency permit, there is no replacement requirement for those trees. I mean, I took a look at our neighbors' emergency removal of some dead trees that they had, and there was no requirement to replace the trees. I also have a problem with the fact that this report that came out 2 days ago is requiring us to basically put the exact species that they're calling for of tree replacement. One of them being a bishop pine, and fortunately or unfortunately, once you put a bishop pine on the property, you're then basically blocking off any future development or cutting down of that tree. So if the administrator finds that the replacement of the trees is proper, I would ask them to at least allow us to plant native trees and shrubs of our choice. But as far as I'm concerned, replacement of the trees is punitive against basically an innocent party who stepped into someone else's shoes. And this replacement of the trees is a brand new requirement that basically popped up 2 days ago. So our intent is to go ahead and remediate the fence so that there's a 50% non-obstructive view, which is we're talking about a no outlet country road with 7 homes on it. We're not talking about a major thoroughfare. And in previous agreements, people with 6 foot tall total obscuring fences have been allowed to bring it down to 50%. So we don't have a problem with that. We don't have a problem with leaving the stumps in situ. We don't have a problem with taking out non-native saplings that may be growing on the bluff. And we don't have a problem with the normal conditions that come with trying to remediate this violation that occurred by someone else. So that's basically all I have to say.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your comments. We're going to next go to public comment, and then we'll come back around for discussion with the administrator and staff as well, based upon some of your comments. So stay on the line with us. So next I'm going to open up the public hearing and see if we have any members of the public who wish to speak on this item. And you can indicate so by using the raised hand feature. And seeing no hands raised in the Zoom and no members of the public in the room, I'll go ahead and bring it back to the coastal permit administrator. So I think my main question for staff is, do we know what the basis was for why they wanted to require the 1-to-1 ratio, since it's not part of a environmentally sensitive habitat area?
That was, well, here, I have the CDFW comment pulled up. So CDFW commented saying that, first off, no biological information was included in the referral. The trees that were removed were not identified, but they may have been a combination of tree species. And then there was an identification that they were cypress, but not further definition of what kind of cypress.
Okay.
So while Mendocino cypress can grow over 100 feet in nutrient-rich soil, it has not been documented to grow on South Coast bluff tops.
Probably unlikely. Yeah.
Some of the trees in the photo are most likely Monterey cypress.
Mm-hmm.
Monterey is not native and is on the CalPC watch list for the Mendocino County. In the email below, the Coastal Commission recommended the trees be planted with native trees at a 1-to-1 ratio. So both CDFW and the Coastal Commission recommended this 1-on-1 ratio. It's a little unclear who originated that, but they are both in support of it.
Mm-hmm. And then I'll just, I think for the education of the property owner as well, individual bishop pine trees are not individually protected by Mendocino County Code as an environmentally sensitive habitat area. It has to be the Northern Bishop Pine Forest Alliance. So just having individualized bishop pine trees or individual grand fir trees does not necessarily necessitate that it becomes a Northern Bishop Pine Forest or a grand fir forest. It would have to meet those membership requirements. So given that I think we have both two state agencies, one of which has appeal authority over this permit, I think I will be keeping those 1-to-1 replacement ratios, but I thought it's important for you to be aware that it is not going to put you in a scenario where you are immediately creating a sensitive habitat area on your property. And so the way that the condition is currently worded right now, it looks like the 1-to-1 ratio says replacing with native and locally appropriate tree species, including bishop pine and grand fir. So it does give you flexibility between those two. I don't know if it is, let me look at their comment letter here too.
Recommendation 2 specifically.
Yeah. And that says such as locally native tree and shrub species such as bishop pine and grand fir. So it may be
But then read
appropriate.
the last sentence of that recommendation.
Oh, sorry. Oh, should include a minimum of 2 tree species from the list above and at least 2 of the shrubs.
And the list only includes
There's 2 trees, thank you. Thank you for that. So, okay, so it looks like they were wanting to see both bishop pine and grand fir replanted on the property. And then the shrubs, they did give you a couple different options for what to consider from a shrub perspective as well. So, and I see you have your hand up, so go ahead, Steve, and unmute, and I'm happy to hear any additional comments or questions from you as well. And you are currently muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah. So basically, I understand your stance and everything. And if they would have come in with something that said that we plant native trees, that would be fine. But they're specifying our planting palette, which in the first place, this is punitive. I have no idea why this whole thing went to them in the first place, but not only are they being punitive, but they're singling us out to replace trees where other homeowners on the same block have taken trees down and have not had to go under these restrictive circumstances. So while they might have appeal rights and everything, I really feel that if you're planning on putting this condition on, that you at least make it broad enough where we can choose our own native planting palette for what we want to do while we're still using native trees and native shrubs, rather than these specific trees that they're calling out for no apparent reason. Because they're saying replant it with native, and then they're saying, oh, but it has to be this one and it has to be that one. So that's what I'd like you to take into consideration. And if they really want to draw a line in the sand and then appeal it, let them appeal it, and let them tell us why they're putting such a restriction on this property. The other question I have is, there was a mention of a restriction, was it 11, Rob?
Yes, the deed restriction condition is condition 11.
All right, so is that different than the stuff that we talked about, or is that just the same thing we were talking about?
I'm sorry, I don't recall.
Is that an additional condition, or is this just the 9? I'm just trying to find the condition that we're talking about.
The condition was included in the original staff report, and it's a standard condition that we
Okay.
left top properties. Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's a condition, it just prohibits development of shoreline protective devices. It's
Right.
because of
Right.
the location of your property on the bluff.
Yeah, listen, I have no problem living up to normal conditions and stuff. You know, I just don't want to bow too easily to the Coastal Commission and to whoever else put together this planting thing, where I really just feel it's ultra restrictive, and they don't know the whole history of the property.
I do want to clarify one point. So staff's understanding of the revised condition 9, recommended condition 9, it does require at least one bishop pine and at least one grand for the remaining 5 trees. To staff's understanding, could be other species that are native and locally appropriate.
So not just limited to only those 2 tree species for all of the replanting.
Yes, staff's understanding is that CFW's recommendation is that you need at least one of both of those, and then beyond that, it's not as prescriptive.
Yeah, but it's I get that might be their thing, but so what you're saying is the 7 removed trees shall be replaced on site on a 1-to-1 ratio with native and locally appropriate tree species, including both. So as long as that's inclusive, is what you're saying.
Yeah, so meeting the condition would mean you would need at least one
Right.
Monterey cypress, at least one, or sorry,
Bishop
excuse me,
pine.
one bishop pine,
Right.
one grandfir, and then the remaining 5 just need to be native.
Right.
And then that's a planning palette, the landscape plan you would submit to CBA for final approval. But
Okay, but now let's talk about the landscaping plan, because they're not going to tell us where on the property these things have to exist.
Correct. That's not
Right.
required. It's just that you demonstrate to our office that you have designated sufficient plantings. That's really what the purpose is behind the
Right.
planting plan.
Okay, and then the other question is, they really don't, they talk about the shrubs, which again, I don't have a problem with. But they don't say how many shrubs per tree. So is that up to the landscape architect or whatever?
I would say yes. I think it looks like there's not a specific, just a desire to see that it's a combination of the two, essentially creating, restoring some of the native vegetation
Right.
on the site.
Okay, all right, so I think we're okay. We're okay on there. I have one more question, just because I know we don't want to set this up for an appeal with either one of these agencies if they decide to have the time to even deal with this property and the 7 trees. I do have one more question, and Rob, this goes to something we talked about a little while back. And I'm going back to the fence right now. So the initial right now, the way that the fence is built, it has about a 40% unobstructed view, because it goes stake, space, stake. My question is, the existing fence that was existing at first was 4 feet tall, because and the reason we know that is the fence that the guy built, that Lowell Strauss built, runs into the next door neighbor's fence, which is 4 feet tall. So my question is, and there's a reason behind this. My question is, can we bring down our fence instead of 3.5 feet to 4 feet? And the only reason is that will stop me from having to move the cross member, the horizontal member that right now is holding all the stakes. I just don't know whether that would be acceptable to the plan administrator or not. And Rob, I don't know what your view on that is.
Sure. So staff didn't evaluate whether or not the removed fence was legal non-conforming in any capacity. It had just been removed. If it was indeed over 4 feet and view obscuring, it may have been legal non-conforming where it predated the requirements to be non-view obscuring above a certain height. But regardless, even if that was the case, the removal without a permit would have essentially lost the property the ability to continue having that non-conformance in a legal capacity. So this new fence, staff understands, would need to comply with the standard.
Okay, no problem.
That's correctly described, so thank you.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
fine.
well, thank you, Steve. I appreciate your comments. I'm glad we were able to get some clarification from, on the conditions, so that way you're clear on what your next steps are for this project. So, so with that, I'm going to bring it to the coastal permit administrator. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I have one more question. Is it possible to move the timelines from 90 days, and I'm talking about specifically the shrubs and trees? Is it possible to move that from 90 days to, I don't know, 120?
For the submitting the landscaping plan?
Yeah, the landscaping plan we can get pretty quickly, but I don't know how quick I'm going to be able to get the trees and plant them and things like that.
So I don't believe that it's actually required that you have to plant the trees. It just says the applicant shall submit within 90 days.
Okay.
The landscaping plan to our office.
Oh, okay, great. Okay. And then the one thing that I'm going to be asked, and maybe I need to speak to, I forgot the code enforcement guy's name. So this whole thing is with the title insurance company too. So we need to get the violation off of the deed right now. So my question is, because this landscaping thing is a new thing, Rob, will we be able to cut down the fence and then go for getting the lien waived and recorded prior to us completing the shrub and tree thing?
And Steve, we do actually have Sean Crackpon in the room here
Oh,
with us too, so I think he'll be able to respond to that.
Yes,
Thanks.
Steve. So this is Sean Crackpon, one of
Hey,
the
Sean.
supervisors for Mendocino County Code Enforcement. To answer your question, yes, I had sent you an email yesterday.
Yeah, I got that.
The steps, and the general steps is that we need to see that the CDP is issued. If it's approved by the CPA at this hearing today and it is not appealed, ultimately, once that time period passes and code enforcement can verify that the fence is in compliance with county regulations, at that point, the lien would be eligible to be released pending the payment of the recordation fee. Code enforcement is not going to hold the lien on title for the 5-year period that the monitoring plan needs to take place on.
All right, great. I appreciate that. I just have to tell the title company attorney that. So I appreciate that. Hey, thank you everybody for your assistance. This was a surprise to us when we first bought the property, and I really appreciate all the help we've gotten on this from the county side.
Well, it's always the worst when you purchase a site and then become the unsuspecting new owner of a violation. So, and then one additional clarification I just want to give you, Steve, is that condition 9 says that within a year after the coastal permit administrator approves the landscaping plan, is when they needed the trees and shrubs needed to be planted. So you're going to have a year after that first 90 days.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And
I
if I
appreciate
may, one additional clarification. So on a typical coastal development permit, a condition like the landscaping plan would usually be tied to the building permit. So prior to the building permit issuance,
Yeah.
and it wouldn't have a separate timeline. In this case, there is no subsequent building permit.
Exactly.
So the 90 days is a standard, but the 90 days is not coming from any specific agency.
Understood. Yeah. Thank you.
Great.
Okay, well, great, thanks, Steve. Now, with that discussion, I am going to approve the project, subject to the findings and the conditions within the staff report as modified by the memorandum dated March 24th, 2026, and that's the modifications to conditions 8 and 9. You have 2 subsequent appeal periods associated with this project, so roughly about 30 days from today, you would conclude those appeal periods and have an issued permit. So, thank you for being here today. Okay.
Thank you.
To our next item on the agenda, we have case 3B, which is CDP 2025-0014, which is for owner applicant Ken Richter. And Rob is the planner. Please go ahead.
Thank you. This is another standards coastal development permit for the remodel of an existing single-family dwelling, including internal changes, approximately 152 square feet of addition, walled seating area, solar panels, a gas tank, and infrastructure related to the gas tank within a fenced enclosure. New siding, roofing, and windows and doors. About 2.3 miles northwest of Guala Town Center, about 450 feet southwest of the intersection of State Route 1 and Pirates Drive, located at 47081 Pirates Drive, Guala, APN 144-29004. This is a bluff-top parcel immediately adjacent to Cooks Beach with limited additional buildable space. The County Department of Transportation has requested reconstruction of the driveway approach, which has been included as recommended condition 7. And given potential bluff stability issues, staff recommend requiring erosion best management practices, or BMPs, as condition 6. And per Coastal Commission comments, a deed restriction limiting bluff protection measures. The remaining conditions are standard. Staff recommend approval as conditioned.
Okay, great. Thank you for your presentation. And do we have a representative of the application that wishes to comment on this item? And I see we have a hand raised. Please go ahead and unmute and state your name for the record and any comments you may have.
Yes, my name is Matthias Obliger. I'm the architect, and I believe that Ken Richter, the owner, is also on.
I do not see any other hands raised, so I think you might be it.
Okay, yeah, I can speak to the project.
Did you have any comments or concerns with the staff report and recommendations?
No, basically, thank you for looking at the project, and we are aware of the conditions and will address them as we go along with the project, especially condition 7 and condition 8. And that's it from my side.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you for being here. Next, I'm going to open up the public hearing and see if we have any members of the public that wish to speak on this item. And you can indicate so by using the raise hand feature. I'm seeing no hands raised online, and we have no members of the public in the room. So I'll bring it back to the Coastal Permit Administrator. And thank you to staff for the detailed staff report. I've reviewed the materials. And I will approve the project subject to the findings and conditions contained within the staff report. Okay.
I'm going to step out.
Okay, all right, sounds good, thank you. All right, and our next item on the agenda is case 3C, which is CDP 2025-0016 for the Harold Pitters Family Trust. And our staff planner is Liam Crowley. Please go ahead with your presentation.
Morning, this is Liam with Planning and Building. So this is a coastal development permit to build an approximately 300 square foot addition, various interior improvements, replacing a deck with a larger deck, exterior lighting, replacing siding, and adding a window to an existing residence in the Casper South subdivision. The proposal meets the standard zoning requirements like setbacks, height limit, and lot coverage. Little to no grading would occur due to the small amount of additional foundation, and best management practices would be sufficient to prevent impacts due to grading. The proposal does not have the potential to impact environmentally sensitive habitat and is not in a hazard area. CAL FIRE provided their conditions of approval, which have been memorialized as recommended conditions within the coastal development permit. And the property is not within a highly scenic area. I did contact the Casper South Water District, which also provides sanitation service to the property, and the district confirmed that adequate capacity is available to serve the addition. And an archaeological survey was conducted on the property, which did find a site that was 25 feet or more from the proposed development. The archaeologist in that survey did recommend that plastic hazard fencing be installed 10 feet outside the outer boundary of the archaeological site during construction. And that was presented to the Archaeological Commission, who accepted the survey with that condition that the archaeologist recommended to be followed. And those are included as recommended conditions in the coastal development permit. The property is not within a proposed public access area, and it's categorically exempt from California Environmental Quality Act review. And I did have a couple minor corrections to make. So on page CPA2 of the staff report, it lists the Casper South Service Company. That's also known as the Casper South Water District. And in several places in the report, the road, Hilma Circle, is identified as County Road 588, but the correct road name is actually 558. So with that, I'm recommending that the coastal development permit be approved according to the findings and subject to the conditions in the staff report. Thanks.
Great, thank you for your presentation. And do we have representatives of the application that wish to provide any comment on this item? And you can indicate so. Oh, there we go, hand raised. Please go ahead and unmute and state your name for the record and any comments you may have.
Good afternoon. My name is Eric Harrell, and we're the owner of the property. And we agree with the staff report and thank Liam for his work on this.
Great. Well, thank you for being here. Next, I'm going to open up the public hearing and see if we have any members of the public that wish to provide comment on this item. And you can indicate so by using the raised hand feature. I am seeing no hands raised online, and we have no members of the public in the room here, so I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the Coastal Permit Administrator. And thank you to staff for your detailed staff report and the presentation. I think those recommendations are good for the protection of the archaeological resource that's present. And I'm going to approve the project subject to the findings and conditions as contained within the staff report for today's meeting. Okay, and next we have a timed item that is expected to begin at 11 a.m. and that will be case 3, project 3D, case CDP 2025-0007. So we are going to take a break and return at 11 a.m. Thank you.
You are set.
And we're live again. Okay, we're all set. Okay, great. I'm going to bring the coastal permit administrator hearing back to order at 11:01 a.m. This is for our timed item, which is project agenda item 3D, case CDP 2025-0007 for the applicant Navarro River Partners LLC, and our staff planner is Rob Fitzsimmons. May I have your presentation, please?
Sure, and before I start, I want to confirm, you've seen the staff memo that was posted, and also both of the applicant's comments, including one that was posted this morning.
Yes, I have
Okay.
seen all comments and the memorandum that was posted.
Okay, great. This is a standard coastal development permit to construct a 2,375 square foot, 3-bedroom, single-family dwelling, including an additional 38 square foot suite connected by a breezeway, a wooden deck with a hot tub and fire pit, a 136 square foot shed, propane tank, water tank, septic system, generator, second well, road extension with retaining wall and staircase. This is located in the coastal zone, 2.2 miles south of Albion Town Center, about 0.9 miles south-southeast of the intersection of State Route 1 and Navarro Ridge Road, accessed by a private driveway off the south side of State Route 1, located at 980 North Highway 1, Albion, APN 126-04008. This is a blacktop parcel. Given that this project is sited on a bluff, staff is recommending erosion best management practices be required. That's condition 7. There is an issue of conflicting interests with this parcel. A biological scoping report was submitted for this parcel, or for this project, that included a number of recommendations. Staff recommends incorporating all of them into the conditions of approval with the exception of one. One of the recommendations is that any tree removal be replaced at a 1-to-1 ratio. However, this is located in a tree removal area, so this is an area of the county where, in order to preserve and maintain and support visual resources, particularly public visual access to the coast. Hi.
So let me just put you pause
Sure.
for just a second.
Sure.
Welcome, come on in and take a
Hi.
seat.
Sorry, go ahead.
No problem, we just got started. Rob is just
Alright.
beginning his presentation,
Oh,
so,
good. I'm Connie.
for this
Bob.
item.
Connie DeLaviaga.
And Julia, yes.
Yeah. Hi.
So yeah, go ahead and take a seat, and he's going to continue with his presentation, and then we'll look for applicant comments
Okay.
and continue with the public hearing. So,
Thank you.
sorry, please
Sure.
go ahead. Yeah.
So as I said, the biologist recommended tree replacement if any trees are removed. However, as this is in a tree removal area where the area's been designated as trees ideally will be thinned out or kept at a low height to maintain visual access to the coast, to the ocean, that creates a bit of a conflict. So staff instead recommends including a condition from the 2001 permit that had previously been issued on the site, which states that any trees should be replaced, but they should be replaced with shore pine, which doesn't grow as high. And staff do want to clarify, there's no designated trees to be removed on the site itself currently, but it's possible some may be removed, and staff wants to recommend that they be minimized.
Understood.
And there's other tree removal, which we'll get to in a moment. Yeah, so the remaining biological studies recommendations have been incorporated into condition 6. There's also a geotechnical report that's been submitted for this site. It concluded that the landslide risk necessitated certain conditions. Those have been incorporated as condition 9. The site is accessed via a private drive off Highway 1. Caltrans initially recommended improvement of the driveway connection to Highway 1, but as this would involve work on property not owned by the applicant, this was not deemed feasible. And also that the neighbors are not willing to accommodate it, and I believe we have.
I saw the comment letter,
Yes.
yes. Yeah.
So instead, the applicant worked with Caltrans, and Caltrans ended up providing an alternate recommendation, which is to do some tree removal on another parcel, which is also owned by the applicant. And once the tree removal was done to Caltrans's satisfaction, they would issue what they were referring to as a record-keeping permit. So it's not immediately clear from the materials that were provided to the county exactly what trees are being removed where. However, staff is comfortable deferring this issue essentially to Caltrans and accepting the record-keeping permit just as documentation that this issue has been resolved and requiring that as a condition of approval. And the applicant has confirmed that as they've worked with Caltrans, the applicant is comfortable with this condition and is clear on what is needed moving forward. From what staff has been able to understand from this, it won't require a separate CDP because it doesn't look like it's going to rise to the standard of major vegetation removal on this other parcel. If it did, then that CDP would have to come before the record-keeping permit, which would then, that would essentially be an additional step in fulfilling that condition. And also, this tree removal on the separate site, staff do want to clarify that they understand that the way the conditions are written, the recommendations of the biological study, specifically relating to performance of studies prior to tree removal, that would also apply to this tree removal, although it is on a separate site. Staff doesn't feel that additional clarification needs to be added to the conditions, but that is something that the Coastal Department Administrator may want to consider. Okay. Caltrans has also asked the county to inform all property owners along that driveway, getting access off that driveway, that any additional development will likely require driveway improvement. Staff don't really feel that can be handled as a condition of this permit, but staff does want to highlight that notice went out to all of these property owners of this hearing, which included a link to the staff report, which included this information. And then finally, staff want to highlight finding 2, the determination that proposed development will be provided with adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities. As seen in the comments from the Coastal Commission that were posted, the Coastal Commission has questioned the use of a 2001 well report in making this finding. And as described in the staff memo that was also posted, staff feel that the 2001 well report is adequate. There isn't an established limit for the age of a well report. That said, that is certainly something that CPA could consider. Beyond that, that ends the presentation. Staff's available for questions.
Okay, great, thank you. And I see we have representatives of the application here in the room, so
We
please
are
just
the applicants.
yes, so please just state your name for the record and any comments you may have regarding the project, conditions, anything. Yeah.
Bob and Connie Stoops. I guess the main comment, I know that there's been discussions about water in the well, and the original well was drilled in 1991. Let's see.
Yeah, and we have the correspondence that was submitted. I've had a chance to look at all of that
And
too.
this is
Yeah.
just a summary.
Yeah.
At any rate, there's been 2 subsequent tests, one in 2000 and one in just 2026. And the findings are basically that the static water level has been pretty much the same, very consistent. And of course, that's the driver for gallons per minute. And the last 2 were 6.3 gallons and 5 gallons per minute. We go up, we've been going up for 70 years, but to keep that well going once or twice a year, we would turn that well on and pump water just to keep it going, because you don't want to let it just sit. And it works fine, and we've been getting all kinds of water. So I just feel like, based upon the three tests and the static levels of all three being so consistent that water's not going to be a problem. And I would add, we'd be crazy to build a house if we didn't have adequate water. I mean, so, and we totally agree with the Coastal Commission in terms of its oversight of development on the coast. Thank God that we've had it for a long enough time that we don't have hotels and big developments all up and down the coast. And we've followed all the guidelines that have been put for us. So this has been a dream of ours for, as I say, over 70 years. And you have anything to add?
Well,
She's an architect.
I'm an architect, and so there was a house we considered doing in around 2000, whatever year you have there, and we worked on that and actually considered developing on an adjacent property. I mean, it's been a dream for the family before I became an architect to develop there. So I think you can see by our drawing, and it's very sensitive. It's very sensitive to the site, to the contours, to its location, to the river going and flowing in one direction, to the ocean to the west. So we're open to comments because we'd like to accommodate issues as they arise, but we were drilling each other so much while we were designing this, we feel like we've kind of worked it out.
Well, thank you both for being here today. And I'm going to open up the public hearing and just see if we have any members of the public that wish to speak on the item as well. And then I'll bring it back to the Coastal Permit Administrator and we'll continue discussion as well.
The hearing will be in here?
This is the hearing as of right now. So I'm opening up the public hearing, and I just will note for the record, there's no members of the public in our Zoom meeting, and we have no other members of the public in the room. So I'm subsequently closing that portion of the public hearing and bringing it back to the Coastal Permit Administrator. So the main question I had for you all as the applicant is, so obviously I see that this material was provided yesterday afternoon, and a copy of it sent to the Coastal Commission staff as well. And just in my time with the county, I don't, water is something that has regularly been a point of contention between the county and the Coastal Commission, and has been the source of many appeals that have occurred within our county by the Coastal Commission office. So what I wanted to ask of you all, the applicants, is if you want to continue this item to wait to hear from Coastal Commission staff based upon the correspondence that they received yesterday from representatives of the application before a decision is made, or if you feel confident that you'd like to continue moving forward today.
Well, two scenarios. If we move forward, then Coastal Commission takes a position and we either accept or appeal. Is that the process?
So the way that the process works, so if the county took action today and the commission disagreed with the county's findings and requirements of the permit, they have the authority to appeal the county's decision on this application, in which case then you would be working directly with the California Coastal Commission to resolve what their concerns are.
Do we have any feedback since they got the last?
Have you?
Yeah, so little additional context.
Thank you.
So first off, the staff memo was written, staff was aware that the applicant was planning on providing this additional material, but the staff memo did not take that into account. It was written just going off of what had already been submitted. That memo was forwarded to the Coastal Commission, and staff invited the Coastal Commission to attend this hearing. It doesn't appear they're here. They did respond earlier this morning stating that they've not had the chance to discuss the memo internally and are therefore not prepared to address it today.
Okay.
I don't have anything from them specifically regarding the new the 2026 well report. But that was forwarded to them. Presumably, they are also not prepared to comment on it today.
Understood.
So I guess my main issue would be, I guess the best of all worlds would be if, you know, the last thing we want to do is to get an acceptance and then an appeal and then have to go through all the appeal process and all of that. Is there some way that we could do a continuation?
Absolutely, that's what I was asking for. So there is the ability that we would be able to continue this item to a subsequent agenda and allow for time for the commission to review the material and respond before proceeding with any type of action on the project. So that was why I asked, because otherwise, you know, it's challenging timing. I understand the commission's perspective that they haven't had a sufficient amount of time to review the additional correspondence from staff and additional correspondence from the applicant.
Sure.
So typically, we hold meetings twice a month for Coastal Permit Administrator, one the second Thursday and the fourth Thursday of each month. So my typical suggestion would be that you continue it by a month, just to provide sufficient time for commission staff to be able to review and also allow staff ample time to provide any memorandum based upon any response that may come from the commission staff. So
I think that's the way to go, because we're all trying to work together here. Things come in at the last minute, you know, we understand that. So I guess there's an April 23rd.
that would be the next meeting, yeah.
So, I mean, a continuation to there, that would allow the Coastal Commission to get their statements and their reviews in order.
Yes.
But they then talk with you, Rob?
Yeah, well, so presumably they will forward their responses to me, and then I expect to again invite them to the next hearing, but they won't necessarily attend that. So it will probably just be an email correspondence.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
And you'll be in touch with JP?
Yes.
I guess the main thing is that, you know, I think you have a meeting coming up on the 9th. I'd say, well, let's do the 9th, but just to make sure that everybody has time, the 23rd is fine. But I guess, you know, as much as we can do via email and telephone and everything before then, because
Yes.
we'd hate to come up and say, oh, well, they refused it, or they've demanded this type of a test, or whatever. So as much as we can do, you know, via telecommunications and all,
Yeah.
would be much appreciated. Because
Yeah.
again, if there is another test that's needed or whatever, it gives us a little time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think certainly Rob will be able to be in communication with you all.
Yeah, he's
leading
been
up to
great
that.
with JP, so.
So, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So with that, what I will do is I'm going to continue this item to the April 23rd Coastal Permit Administrator hearing. And just for your awareness, there will not be a new public notice sent out because we are continuing to a date certain. So this is the notice to the public and the applicants that it'll be heard on that day.
So their time to comment regarding the project, it would be done or continued?
They still provide written comment as well as
Sure.
show up and comment at that April 23rd meeting as
Okay.
well. So as you also have the ability to submit
Yeah.
comments and
We'll be
additional
here-
items.
We'll be here as well.
It'll be in the same room, yes,
Okay.
exactly, yeah. So with that, the item is continued to April 23rd, 2026, and that meeting begins at 10 a.m. Okay, that concludes our public hearing items for today. So agenda item 4, are there any matters from staff?
No matters from staff.
And agenda item 5, are there any matters from the public? The Coastal Permit Administrator welcomes participation in meetings. This item is limited to matters under the jurisdiction of the Coastal Permit Administrator, which are not on the posted agenda, and items which have not already been considered by the Coastal Permit Administrator. No action will be taken. Any matters from the public? See none, then I will adjourn the meeting at 11:20 a.m.
Great. Well, thank you for your time. Apologize.